And again, ism making it the ideology. It matches up with the party this way, too. You're more likely to see this called conservative and liberal. The problem with that is conservative and liberal go on this spectrum, not this one. So we'll call them Democrat and Republicans. What are their beliefs, their comprehensive set of beliefs about the government and its role? That's what makes them Republicans. That's what makes them Democrats. So the Democrats want just a little more government. Not total government, but more government. A bigger role for government. Okay? And then when you work your way from the center, or from the ends to the center, there's another group here. Socialism. And then libertarianism. This is where the libertarians are, libertarianism. If you look at the beliefs of libertarians, it's reflected in their party platform, the party platform of libertarians, you'll see that their role for government is less, reduced even more than it is. All right. Security, yeah, you pretty much security, that's about it in terms of that role. So now here you're at libertarianism. Socialism, more government. An example of socialist countries, many Western European countries, Canada, right? They have a greater access of their citizens, higher taxes, but greater access systems for health care and education and other social programs. Okay, but you got to pay for it. Nothing for free. So there's a greater distribution or allocation of those resources.
Okay, if I'm getting this right, you're saying that on the Republican side, they have less government but more control of that government, right? Because they have the money.
Well, they certainly do have the money. The rationale, why it's rational for Republicans to want less government, all right, as long as you have security, but want less government, because less government then, of course, is less of things to pay for, right? If you're reflective of government in terms of health care, of education, of food banks, of whatever, that less government is a system where you have a social safety net, but maybe a less intrusive, less costly government. Because those costs, where those monies come from to pay for that government, doesn't come here. It comes from up here. And that takes away from the quality of life and paying for those individuals, which would be irrational for those individuals who want to go down the hill. Now again, don't get caught up in the but there are many individuals who are very wealthy who say, you know what, you could tax me more. Now, there's nothing that precludes those individuals from just giving more to the government. They can just write a check to the government. There's no law against writing a check to the government. All right? But they do make those arguments at the top that they could be taxed more. And there are individuals who make more money than they'd ever spend in not just their lifetime, this whole classroom's lifetime. And, to what good, to what end is having that much wealth when you're not utilizing it for its resources? I mean, it's access to the resources, but you'll never access those resources. And so that tends to be an argument that maybe there should be an upper limit to how much an individual could or should make. I don't necessarily prescribe to that concept. I believe that the sky should be the limit, but at the same time, I can understand that argument that if you're not going to utilize the resources that these dollars represent, why not mete those out to individuals who certainly could use them? The flip side of that is, you teach a person to fish, they eat for a lifetime, right? You give them a fish, they eat for a day. Yeah.
I don't think all Republicans are rich and all Democrats
right.
are poor,
No,
because
let's
true. Point out some of our candidates and their wives being the Heinz Harris and things like that.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. You're not 100%. You're correct. And particularly at that level of government, where those individuals are running, in the Senate, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, oftentimes you're going to find a nice, lengthy money trail behind those individuals. So, yeah, that's correct. But ideologically speaking, when you start to talk about, and again, but individuals don't want change, tend to be individuals who, get maybe, don't necessarily judge their happiness by the material things. And so, again, as long as you're not hampering what I do have, I don't want you to take away what I do have, I'm good. And they'd be very staunchly conservative, very staunchly independent, even though you wouldn't necessarily argue that they're at the top of the material quality of life hill. And the same is true with Democrats, individuals who are on the top of the quality of life hill, but still advocate for that change, so advocate for more government. So yeah, you're 100% correct. Okay. So in terms of, back to your idea of control of government just comes from how many Democrats or how many Republicans are in office. So if I can get more Republicans in office, I'll have a Republican-leaning government that will do less, maybe reduce itself down, rely more on the individual versus government and the perceptions of programs. If I can get more Democrats elected and they control the government, then they may try to do more things with that government. I mean, I think it's playing itself out in Washington, D.C. right now. You had that supermajority. You had a strong push. Go forward, screw the Republicans, regardless of what, if they want to play or don't play, we're going to move forward on this. Okay? Smack you in the back of the head. All right, never mind. All right, so that's what you ultimately want to do and when you start talking about control of government.
So when they say that I'm more to the right or I'm more to the left,
Yes.
they meant this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, bless you. Yeah, that's exactly correct. Yeah, when you hear right and left, this is what they're referring to. If you've ever been puzzled, like, where did they come up with right and left? This is it.
Right wing and left wing.
Yes, right wing nuts and left wing loonies and all that stuff. This is what they're referring to. The right and the left. Right extremists. Well, they don't want any government at all. They don't want any government, no safety net, no. Right wing extremists, left wing communists, socialists. They just want to take everything you have and just give it to people who never earned it. This is what they're talking about when they talk about left and right. But the far majority of individuals, far majority of people, are not at the extremes. The far majority are someplace close to the center. They value equality. They value freedom. It's just to what degree that we use government to those ends. And again, this, even though it looks like Republicans and Democrats are close together, and they are, this is the dividing line. This is the difference between more government and less government. That is the front. That is the war. Okay? And then the last two, the extremes here, anarchism. That's right. Yay! Somebody say yay! Anarchism is to the far right, as in terms of no government, right? 100% freedom. And anarchist individuals who think these things may have these ideologies say, well, listen, you make this argument that anarchy would necessarily lead to chaos. You're damn right it would. Again, we walked our way out of the savannah. We walked our way towards civilization because of that chaos. And maybe if the resources were plentiful, but even so, even if the resources were plentiful, you still have people being people. You still have the Jeffrey Dahmers out there. You still have need for security. And because of that, you still have need for government. But if you could expand the resources, and this is true on both ends, you expand the resources, the need for government goes down, equality and freedom go up. And then the far left is extreme socialism, or what we affectionately call communism.
Which works real well, too.
Which, again, from the utopian standpoint, the idea is that wouldn't it be beautiful if I worked on your behalf, and you worked on your behalf, and you worked on my behalf, and I worked on your behalf, and we all did work because it was the best thing to do for, again, what about that one person who says, I'm going to take a little more? Or the person who says, I'm still going to eat your kids. What do you do about those inequities? People just don't roll like that. And why we need structure, and when we start talking about chaos, why relying on individuals to do what's right, it becomes difficult to perceive if you just take something as simple as a snowy parking lot, and when those yellow lines get skewed, and watching individuals decide how they're going to park. That's the chaos of anarchy. That's individuals knowing they should do the right thing and still choosing not to. And it may not be all. It may just be one. One person, right? Okay, everybody got this is good stuff.